Okay, so this set of notes is talking about adding and subtracting decimals. If you are in pre-AP, this is your first night's homework, and academic, this is your second. So here we go with adding and subtracting decimals. When you're adding or subtracting decimals, you're going to write your numbers in a column, but you're going to line up the place values. Okay, so when you line up the place values, that's ones go in a column all the way down here. Here's my ones places all the way down. Here's my tenths, my hundredths. Okay, that means my decimals are also going to be lined up all the way down my problem for adding and subtracting decimals. All right, as in lots of rules that we're going to have this year, the adding and subtracting rules are different from multiplying and dividing. Okay, so in adding and subtracting only, we are going to line up our decimals when we're adding and subtracting. So we've got our decimals lined up. We just plug in our numbers and add up in a column like you've always done. So once you have the answer, you're going to have 3 and 29 hundredths for this example. Same way with subtraction, you're going to line everything up on the decimal. And when you end up, you're going to have to show for your work. I want you showing your carrying over or your borrowing in your adding and subtracting. You'd have 3 and 33 hundredths at the end of this subtraction problem with the decimals lined up. Now, one thing that you need to make sure you're doing is if you have a whole number like the number 2, in this example down here that has the big circle with the line through it, you have the number 2 here, it's a whole number. It is a ones place. So that ones place has to go over or under, in a line with, in a column with, the other ones places. So this is wrong to put the whole number 2 all the way to the right. We're not lining up on the right, we're lining up on the decimal. And every whole number has a decimal. The number 2 has a decimal. Since this is the ones place, the decimal comes to its right. Okay, even though there's nothing back there as far as tenths or hundredths or thousandths, the decimal would still belong to the right of the ones place. And so this is a ones. So when we write this out to add or subtract, we're going to write 2 decimal 0, 2 and 0 tenths, so that we can line up our place values with our other number. If we had had something that we were adding, let's say we're adding 4 plus 7 and 293 thousandths. When I'm lining this up to actually add these together, I'm going to go 4, and then this one has the 7 and 293 thousandths has 3 decimal places. So I'm going to add 3 decimal places to my 4 using zeros. It doesn't change the value of the number. It's still only worth 4, but it allows me to line up my 7 and 293 thousandths correctly so that my ones are in a column, my tenths are in a column, my hundredths, etc. And then I would go ahead and add these up. Okay, so for your examples today, we're going to look at number 1 and 3, and I need you to do number 2 on your own. And then we're going to look at number 4 for the word problems, and the rest of them, 5 through 7, will be yours to do on your own. So when you're given a problem where it's written vertically or horizontally like this, you can go ahead and write it out vertically, up and down, so that it's easier for you to understand. So we have 2 numbers. I'm going to put 2 decimals in here. Okay. To the left of the first number, I have a 2. To the left of the second, I have my 5. And I'm doing it this way so that I make sure I get everything lined up correctly. To the right of the 2 of the decimal on the first number, I have a 5, and to the right, I have an 8. Okay, now I have another spot out here. I have the hundredths place filled in with the first number. So it's 2 and 54 hundredths, 5 and 8 tenths, but I have my decimals all lined up. Okay, right here in this blank, I'm going to fill in with a 0. I still have the same amount. 5 and 8 tenths is the same as 5 and 80 hundredths. Okay, it's the same amount So I'm just going to fill in zeros wherever I have blanks, and then I can go ahead and add. Now, when you're doing your homework, I want to see this written out, and I also want to see you carrying your ones or your twos or however you're adding. I need to see the evidence of you actually doing your work. So we end up with 8 and 34 hundredths here. All right, we're going to skip number 2. You're going to do that one on your own. You have 11 and 5 hundredths and 12. You need to figure out how you're going to put a decimal in this number to make it line up 12 ones with 11 ones. Okay, for number 3, I'm going to write this out vertically. 8 and 8 tenths, and lining up my decimal point, I have 4 and 9 tenths. I don't have any blank spaces to fill in with zeros, so I'm just going to leave that. This is a subtraction problem, and so I'm going to have to borrow here because I don't have enough to subtract with. So I need you to show your borrowing. That's how I borrow. Some people would cross out the 8 and write 18 above it. That's fine too. I just need you to show your work so that you end up with 3 and 9 tenths on that one. Okay, finally, we are going to look at the word problem. Now, number 2 you're doing on your own. We're going to do number 4 word problem together, and then you can complete the rest on your own. So on number 4, Tom scores in the diving competition. I should say Tom's scores in the diving competition were 7 and 2 tenths, 6 and 975 thousandths, 8 and 0 tenths, and 6 and 96 hundredths. What is his total score? So when we're looking at our word problems, we're looking for keywords. Total would be a keyword, which means to add. So we're going to be adding all these together to get his total score. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. We're going to line up on the decimal point. 7 and 2 tenths, 6 and 975 thousandths, 8 and 0 tenths, 6 and 96 hundredths. Okay, I've got those all lined up. To make it easier to add so you don't get your columns all mixed up, I'm going to fill in with zeros so that I have nice, neat columns to add. Now it may seem like it's, just an extra step, just skip putting those zeros in there, but believe me, you're going to get caught sometime not putting the zeros in, and you're going to not line up your columns correctly and not add up correctly. So just go ahead and throw those zeros into the blank spots so that you know you have everything in its right column. So adding here, I get 5, 7, and 6 is 13. Carry the 1.
7th grade parents, we so appreciate you coming
21.
today, and 7th grade students, it is getting close
Okay,
to
and we
time
have
for
10,
your visit
23,
to end. We
29.
need people to be allowed to eat their lunch, and then we have another group coming.
So that's
So
29
if you could
and
so finalize your visit
135
with us this
thousandths.
morning, we would appreciate it. And students, see you tonight at Wallapalooza. It's going to be fun. Thank you, parents.
And as you probably recognized, I'm creating this video in the middle of your running around and checking out all your classes and bringing your supplies in and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so the final answer then, if you couldn't hear me, was 29 and 135 thousandths, and that is the total score. That's going to be my final answer. Usually on our homework, we like to see your answers either boxed or circled. So I want you to go ahead and complete the rest of the problems that are on these notes by yourself, and those are due tomorrow at the beginning of class. Your secret question for today. Let's think of a good one. After number 4, you should place a star and tell me who your favorite recording artist is. That would be a singer or a band.